We thought the battle for Roloff Farms was just about land, pumpkins, and a family legacy tearing at the seams. We thought the drama was confined to property lines and divorce decrees. We were wrong. We were so incredibly wrong. Today, we aren't talking about a reality show dispute or a petty argument over a wedding invitation. We are uncovering a calculated, cold-blooded financial crime that changes absolutely everything we thought we knew about the dynamics in Hillsborough. According to explosive insider leaks that are just now bubbling to the surface of the dark web and private forums, Caryn Chandler didn't just want Amy Roloff's house. She didn't just want her husband. Reports suggest she wanted her very identity. This is the $200,000 stolen inheritance scandal that could potentially send Caryn to federal prison and leave Matt Roloff alone to answer for the chaos. We are talking about mail fraud, wire fraud, and a level of deception that is truly chilling. Before we dive into the dark details of this alleged financial betrayal, I need you to do one thing. If you want to see justice served and the truth exposed, you need to hit that like button right now. It tells the algorithm that we aren't afraid to discuss the real controversies they try to bury. And if you are new here, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You do not want to miss the fallout from this story because, trust me, the legal battle that is about to ensue will make the divorce look like a tea party. Join the investigation, subscribe now, and let's get into the evidence. To understand the gravity of these accusations, we have to go back to the environment that made this possible. We have to look at the power dynamic at Roloff Farms in the months leading up to this alleged incident. For years, viewers have watched Caryn slowly transition from a farm manager to the woman on Matt's arm, effectively replacing Amy in every sense of the word. But insider theories have always swirled that this wasn't just about love. It was about lifestyle. It was about security. And recently, the financial strain on the farm has been no secret. With the failed sale of the big house and the tension with the kids, cash flow has been a major topic of speculation. Now, imagine the setting. Amy Roloff has moved off the farm. She is building her new life with Chris Merrick. But, as often happens during messy transitions and complex property entanglements, not all the administrative ties were cut immediately. Mail, specifically sensitive financial documents, allegedly continued to trickle into the main farm address, an address that Caryn Chandler reportedly monitored like a hawk. Sources close to the situation have hinted for a long time that Caryn acted as the ultimate gatekeeper. Nothing reached Matt without going through her. She filtered the calls, she managed the schedule, and crucially, she sorted the mail. According to the shocking new narrative emerging from behind the scenes, a very specific, very lucrative envelope arrived at Roloff Farms earlier this year. This was not a bill. This was not a fan letter. This was a notification of a surprise inheritance. Details are murky, but the prevailing theory is that a distant relative of Amy's, or perhaps a matured long-term family trust that had been forgotten in the chaos of the divorce, finally paid out. The sum? A staggering $200,000. This was money meant solely for Amy Roloff. It was her legal property, her safety net, and her right. But Amy never saw that envelope. This is where the story shifts from reality TV drama to a federal crime file. The accusation is that Caryn Chandler, recognizing the sender or perhaps seeing the urgent financial documents enclosed stamp on the exterior, did not forward this mail to Amy's new address. She didn't call Chris. She didn't hand it to Matt. Allegedly, she slid that envelope out of the stack, walked it into the privacy of the farm office, the office that used to be Amy's domain, and opened it. The psychological profile here is fascinating and terrifying. If these reports are true, this wasn't an impulsive act. This was a crime of opportunity born from deep-seated resentment. We have to consider jealousy. Amy has the love of the audience. Amy has sympathy. Amy moved on and found happiness with Chris. Meanwhile, Caryn is constantly vilified. seen as the other woman, and is potentially looking at a future where the farm isn't the gold mine she thought it was. $200,000 is a life-changing amount of money. It's a renovation. It's a luxury car. It's a secret retirement fund. It is the motive. The setup for this alleged crime relies on the chaos of the Roloff family infrastructure. With Matt dealing with health issues and the farm's operations being so vast, it is entirely plausible that a piece of mail could go missing. But intercepting the mail is just the first step. That's a federal offense, yes. Tampering with mail is a felony, but it doesn't get you the cash. To get the money, you have to become the person the money belongs to. You have to cross the line from theft to identity theft. Insider leaks suggest that the document inside that envelope was a claim form. It required a signature, a social security verification, and a routing number for a direct deposit. It was the key to the vault. Any moral person would have resealed the envelope and driven it to Amy's house. But we are exploring a narrative of greed. The theory is that Caryn saw this form not as a mistake, but as a paycheck she felt she deserved for putting up with the drama, the hate comments, and the difficult dynamics of the family for years. In her mind, perhaps she rationalized it. Maybe she thought, Amy has enough. Amy got the buyout. This is mine. The mechanics of what happened next, according to these explosive allegations, involve a level of deceit that is hard to comprehend. We are hearing that Caryn didn't just hide the mail, she acted on it. This brings us to the twist that turns this into a true crime thriller: impersonation. To claim those funds, Caryn would have needed to forge Amy's signature. Now, think about how long Caryn has worked for the Roloffs. She managed the farm for years. She has seen Amy's signature on checks, contracts, payroll documents, and legal waivers thousands of times. If there is anyone on earth who could practice and perfect the signature of Amy Roloff, it is Caryn Chandler. The access she had to Amy's private history gave her the toolkit she needed to commit this fraud. But it goes deeper than just a scribbled name on a piece of paper. The rumors suggest that Caryn allegedly utilized a shadow account. She couldn't deposit the money into her joint account with Matt. He would see it. She couldn't put it in her main personal account. It would raise flags. The theory is that she opened a digital bank account, one of those online-only fintech banks that require minimal verification, possibly using a mix of her own information and the data she stripped from the stolen documents. She then, allegedly, filled out the claim form. She entered the routing number for this shadow account. She signed Amy's name at the bottom, and she mailed it back. Pause for a moment and consider the audacity. This is wire fraud. This is identity theft. These are crimes that carry mandatory minimum sentences in federal prison. This isn't a plotline for a season finale. This is a felony that ends with handcuffs. The sheer arrogance required to believe you can get away with this is staggering. It speaks to a personality type that believes they are above the rules. Someone who believes they are smarter than the system. Why did she think she was untouchable? Perhaps she banked on Amy's disorganization. Amy has been known to be scatterbrained at times, a trait often highlighted on the show. Maybe Caryn thought Amy didn't even know this money existed. If you don't know you have an inheritance coming, you don't miss it when it doesn't arrive. It was the perfect crime, or so she thought. A ghost transaction, money moving from a faceless institution to a hidden account, bypassing the intended recipient entirely. Let's go deeper into the shadow account theory. In the modern banking world, setting up accounts has become frighteningly easy. If Caryn had access to old tax returns or employment files from the farm office, files that would contain Amy's social security number, she had everything she needed. The chilling part of this theory is the premeditation. This wasn't just grabbing cash off a dresser. This involved sitting down, filling out paperwork, falsifying identity, and waiting. It involved days, maybe weeks of holding her breath, waiting for the transfer to hit.
And when it did, when did that $200,000 land in the account? The rush must have been intoxicating. Suddenly, she had a war chest. She had exit money. Or maybe she just had fun money. We don't know exactly what the funds were earmarked for, but the betrayal remains the same. She looked Amy in the face during filming, smiled for the cameras, stood next to Matt, all while allegedly harboring a six-figure secret stolen directly from the pockets of the woman she replaced. The narrative we are uncovering paints Caryn not just as a villain in a reality show, but as a criminal mastermind in a domestic setting. The complexity of financial fraud within families is often overlooked because people assume, oh, they would never do that to someone they know. But statistics tell us otherwise. Most identity theft is committed by someone the victim knows. It is committed by family members, close friends, or employees with access. Caryn fits every single criteria of the most likely perpetrator. She had the access, she had the knowledge, she had the proximity. And according to the haters and the theorists, she had the lack of moral compass required to execute it. Imagine the weeks following the transfer. Amy is living her life, planning her wedding with Chris, worrying about small expenses, completely unaware that a fortune with her name on it has been diverted. Meanwhile, Caryn is walking around the farm, perhaps buying new furniture, perhaps booking vacations, all financed by the very woman she claims to respect in public, but undermines in private. The duplicity is nauseating. But there is a flaw in every criminal's plan. There is always a loose thread. When you mess with financial institutions, when you mess with the IRS, and when you mess with inheritance laws, you leave a paper trail. You cannot move $200,000 without generating a digital footprint. And Caryn, for all her cunning as a farm manager, is not a forensic accountant. She is not a hacker. She is a woman who allegedly thought a forged signature and a fake account would be enough to fool the world. She underestimated the checks and balances of the banking system. She underestimated the inevitable bureaucracy of taxes. The tax implications are where this scheme allegedly began to fall apart, and we will get into the specific moment of discovery in just a minute. But first, we need to understand the silence. Why haven't we heard about this on the news yet? Why hasn't TMZ picked it up? The theory is that the investigation is active. When the feds are involved, silence is standard procedure. They build their case. They track the wire transfers. They verify the IP addresses used to open the accounts. They don't leak to the press until the handcuffs are ready to be slapped on. The silence isn't proof of innocence, it's the calm before the storm. Furthermore, Matt Roloff's role in this cannot be ignored. Did he know? That is the question burning up the message boards. If Caryn pulled this off, did she do it behind Matt's back, or was he a co-conspirator? The idea that Matt would help steal from the mother of his children seems unfathomable, even for him. He can be controlling, he can be stubborn, but grand larceny? That seems a bridge too far. This leads most insiders to believe that Caryn acted alone, rogue, driven by her own private agenda. If Matt finds out, or when he found out, it would be the ultimate betrayal of him as well. She would have put his farm, his reputation, and his freedom at risk for her own gain. The tension this creates is palpable. Picture the dinners at the farm, the filming schedule. The producers are asking questions. All the while, this radioactive secret is sitting in a bank account, waiting to detonate. The level of deception required to maintain normalcy while sitting on a stolen fortune is the behavior of a sociopath. As we move closer to the climax of this exposé, we have to look at the victim, Amy Roloff. She has been painted as emotional, sometimes bitter, but she has always been honest. She wears her heart on her sleeve. To think that she was being robbed blind by the woman sleeping in her old bedroom adds a layer of cruelty that is hard to stomach. It vindicates every bad feeling Amy ever had about Caryn. It validates every hesitation she had about the farm deal. It turns out her intuition might have been warning her about a predator all along. The $200,000 figure is specific. It's not a random number. It's enough to be a felony, enough to ruin a life, but small enough to potentially slip through the cracks of a multi-million-dollar estate if no one is looking closely. But someone was looking, or rather, someone stumbled upon the truth. The unraveling of this scheme didn't come from a high-tech police sting initially. It didn't come from Matt growing a conscience. It came from the most mundane, boring thing in the world, a tax document. We're about to walk through the exact moment the house of cards collapsed. The moment when the envelope arrived that Caryn didn't catch. The moment Chris Merrick, a man who has been a pillar of stability for Amy, proved his worth as a protector. This is the part of the story where the villain gets sloppy and the heroes get smart. We have established the motive, greed, and entitlement. We have established the method, mail interception, forgery, and wire fraud. We have established the victim, Amy Roloff. Now, we stand on the precipice of the discovery. The system always corrects itself. Financial institutions are legally required to send confirmation documents. They are required to send tax forms for interest earned. And this is where Caryn's plan allegedly failed. She couldn't control the mail forever. She couldn't watch the mailbox 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All it took was one slip-up. One day off, one moment of distraction. The twisted nature of this scandal is that it wasn't the theft itself that got her caught. It was the success of the theft, the money earned interest. And interest generates a 1099 form. And 1099 forms have to be mailed to the address on file. If Caryn used Amy's identity, the address on file was likely the one associated with Amy's social security number historically. Or perhaps Caryn tried to change the address, but a duplicate was sent to the original holder. The stage is set for the most explosive confrontation in the history of the show, even if the cameras weren't rolling to catch it. The evidence suggests that the walls are closing in on Caryn Chandler. The theories of her imminent arrest are not just idle gossip. They are based on the logical conclusion of a financial paper trail that leads directly to her door. It was a Tuesday afternoon, a day that felt like any other in the Pacific Northwest. Rain was drizzling against the windows of Amy and Chris's new home, a home they had built together to escape the toxicity of the farm. Chris Merrick, a man known for his calm demeanor and his background in real estate, walked out to the mailbox. He was expecting routine bills, maybe a flyer for a local open house. What he pulled out of that metal box was a grenade wrapped in a government envelope. It was a standard IRS form 1099 INT. For the uninitiated, this is a document banks send you when you have earned significant interest on an account. It means you have money sitting somewhere, making money. Chris, being a diligent partner and a man who understands finances, glanced at it. He saw the bank logo. It wasn't the local credit union Amy had used for 30 years. It was a large national online banking conglomerate. The kind that advertises strictly on social media and promises instant approval. He looked at the recipient's name, Amy J. Roloff. He looked at the reported interest income, $4,200. His realtor brain did the math instantly. To earn over $4,000 in interest in a single tax year, the principal balance in that account had to be substantial. We are talking about roughly $200,000 sitting in an account that Chris had never heard of. He walked into the kitchen where Amy was prepping dinner. The mood was light. They were joking about plans for the weekend. Chris placed the envelope on the counter. He didn't scream. He didn't accuse me. He simply asked a question that would shatter their peace. Amy, did you open a high-yield savings account with Capital One last January? Amy laughed. She said no. She said she barely remembers the passwords to her current accounts, let alone opening a new one. She thought he was joking. But Chris wasn't smiling. He pointed to the figure on the paper. Then why does the IRS think you have $200,000 sitting in this bank? The color drained from Amy's face. Confusion turned to panic. In the world of finance, there is no such thing as a clerical error of this magnitude. The IRS doesn't just guess numbers. A bank doesn't issue a federal tax document unless a verified account exists with a verified social security number attached to it. Amy grabbed the paper. She stared at the account number. The last 4 digits were alien to her. She had never seen them before. This is the moment the insider theories claim shifted the narrative from a mistake to a crime. Chris, realizing the implications, immediately went into protection mode. They didn't call Matt. They didn't call the producers. They called the fraud department of the bank listed on the letterhead. The conversation that followed, according to leaked reports from those close to the investigation, was chilling. The bank representative, following standard security protocol, asked Amy to verify her identity. She gave her name. She gave her social security number. The representative then asked for the voice verification phrase set up on the account. Amy drew a blank. She had never set up a phrase. The representative then asked to verify the last 3 transactions. Amy couldn't. She didn't make them. The representative paused, the line crackling with that terrifying silence of a corporate employee realizing they are dealing with a felony in real time. "Ma'am," the voice on the phone reportedly said, "according to our records, you logged in via our mobile app yesterday at 4:15 p.m. from an IP address in Hillsboro, Oregon." Amy was not in Hillsboro at 4:15 p.m. yesterday. She was with Chris, miles away. But do you know who was in Hillsboro? Do you know who was sitting at the desk in the main office of Roloff Farms? An office that has a distinct, static IP address that has been the digital fingerprint of the Roloff business for 2 decades. Caryn Chandler. The pieces started slamming together with the force of a freight train. The account was opened using Amy's old credentials that were stored in the file cabinets at the farm. The recovery email address linked to the account, it wasn't Amy's. It was a nondescript Gmail account, something generic like Roloff Farm Admin 22, an account that insiders allege Caryn had control over for business purposes. And the physical address listed on the account, it wasn't Amy's new house, it was the farm. That is why Amy never saw the welcome packet. That is why she never saw the debit card. Caryn had intercepted every single piece of physical mail associated with this fraud, collecting them from the pile before anyone else could see. But she forgot about the taxes. She forgot that the IRS demands its cut. And she likely didn't realize that because Amy had filed a change of address form with the post office for her main tax documents, the automated system at the bank, triggered by a database update, sent the tax form to Amy's new legal address, bypassing the manual filter Caryn had set up at the farm. It was a technological loop that Caryn, for all her scheming, didn't anticipate. Amy and Chris sat at that kitchen table, the reality washing over them. This wasn't just a stranger hacking a database in Russia. This was personal. Someone had to have physical access to Amy's Social Security card or old tax returns. Someone had to know her mother's maiden name. Someone had to know the make and model of her first car. Those security questions that only close family or long-term associates would know. The suspect list was a list of 1. The betrayal is visceral. Imagine the nausea Amy must have felt. She realized that the inheritance money, this $200,000 windfall she didn't even know existed, had been stolen. But more than the money, her identity had been hijacked. To impersonate someone requires a level of malice that goes beyond simple theft. It requires wearing their skin, metaphorically speaking. It requires thinking like them, acting like them, and signing their name. Every time Caryn allegedly logged into that account to transfer funds or check the balance, she was pretending to be Amy. She was erasing Amy and replacing her with herself. Chris Merrick, usually the pacifist, was reportedly livid. This is a man who deals in contracts. He knows that wire fraud is a federal offense. He knows that crossing state lines with digital funds invokes the jurisdiction of the FBI. According to the exclusive theories we are discussing, Chris took charge. He told Amy not to contact Matt yet. If Matt was involved, tipping him off would give them time to hide the money or destroy the evidence. If Matt wasn't involved, telling him would cause a chaotic explosion that could compromise the investigation. No, they needed to go straight to the authorities. They spent the next 48 hours compiling a dossier. They pulled Amy's credit reports from all 3 bureaus. What they found was a roadmap of deception. There were inquiries. There were soft checks on her credit that she hadn't authorized. There was a digital trail of breadcrumbs that led directly back to the devices located at Roloff Farms. The audacity of it is what strikes investigators as most damning. Caryn didn't even bother to use a VPN. She didn't bother to mask her location. She was so confident in her position, so arrogant in her belief that Amy was clueless, that she committed these alleged crimes from the comfort of the farm office, possibly while sipping coffee from a mug Amy used to own. Let's talk about the money itself. Where did it go? The bank records, once unlocked by the fraud department, painted a picture of a lifestyle upgrade. There were transfers to legitimate businesses, likely for renovations or purchases that could be explained away as farm expenses, if anyone asked, but were actually for personal gain. There are rumors of a luxury vehicle purchase made in cash, a vehicle that Caryn has been seen driving recently, which she claimed was a gift from Matt. The timeline suggests otherwise. The timeline suggests that Amy Roloff unwittingly paid for the very car Caryn used to drive away from the farm. The twisted logic of the scammer is often, they won't miss it. But $200,000 isn't pocket change. It is an inheritance. It represents the legacy of a family member who wanted Amy to be secure. By stealing it, the allegation is that Caryn didn't just steal cash, she stole the last wishes of the deceased. She desecrated a legacy for a quick payday. As the investigation deepened, the forensic accountants, hired privately by Chris and Amy to verify the claims before going to the police, uncovered the smoking gun. It wasn't just the IP address. It was the signature on the initial claim form. The bank faxed over a copy of the document used to open the account. There, at the bottom, was a signature that looked remarkably like Amy's. It had the same loops, the same slant. But a handwriting expert, even a preliminary one, could spot the hesitation marks, the shaky hand of a forger trying too hard to be perfect. And who had access to thousands of documents with Amy's signature to practice from? Who had spent years staring at Amy's paperwork? The climax of this situation is not a shouting match on a reality show set. It is a quiet, terrifying meeting with federal agents. We are hearing reports that Amy and Chris have officially filed a report with the Identity Theft Resource Center and the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. This is the point of no return. Once the feds open a file, you cannot drop the charges just because the family decides to make up. This isn't a civil suit. This is criminal. The United States government becomes the plaintiff. If the evidence holds up, if the forensic data proves that Caryn Chandler knowingly and willfully used Amy's identity to defraud a financial institution, she is looking at charges under 18 U.S. Code Section 1343 for wire fraud and 18 U.S. Code Section 1028A for aggravated identity theft. Let's pause and really process the severity of aggravated identity theft. In the federal system, this charge carries a mandatory minimum sentence of 2 years in prison to be served consecutively to any other sentence imposed. That means if she gets 5 years for the fraud, the 2 years for identity theft are added on top, totaling 7 years. There is no probation for this specific charge. There is no plea deal to avoid jail time if convicted. It is a hard time, real time, orange jumpsuit time. Now, imagine the atmosphere at the farm right now. Matt Roloff is oblivious, or pretending to be. He is filming content, posting on Instagram about the pumpkin season, completely unaware that a federal indictment is potentially drafting his fiance's name. Or is he? There is a sub-theory, a darker timeline, where Matt discovers the truth before the feds arrive. Imagine him walking into the office, seeing a browser tab left open, or finding a stray bank statement Caryn failed to shred. The betrayal he would feel would be catastrophic. He defended her. He fought his children for her. He blew up his family for her. If he finds out she was using him as a shield to rob his ex-wife, the rage of Matt Roloff will be unlike anything we have ever seen. But for now, the narrative focus is on the hunters, Amy and Chris. They are moving in silence. They are gathering the evidence. They are letting Caryn believe she got away with it. They are letting her spend the money, letting her dig the hole deeper. Every time she swipes that debit card, she is adding another count to the indictment. Every time she logs in, she is refreshing the timestamp on her crime. It is a trap, and she doesn't even know she has walked into it. The psychological toll on Amy cannot be overstated. We have watched her for years. We know she struggles with self-esteem, with feeling like she was pushed out. To have this confirmation that she was targeted, not because of a bad marriage, but because she was seen as a mark, a victim to be exploited, is devastating. It reframes her entire past relationship with Caryn. Every smile, every hello at a family gathering, every polite nod was a lie. It was the mask of a predator observing prey.
And what about the family? The kids? Zach and Tori? Jeremy and Audrey? If this news breaks, when this news breaks, it will be the nuclear bomb that finally destroys whatever is left of the Roloff family unit. Zach has already expressed his distrust of Caryn. He has called her out for influencing Matt. If Zach finds out that Caryn stole his mother's inheritance, the protective instinct of a son will take over. We're talking about a permanent, irrevocable banishment. Caryn will not just be exiled from the farm, she will be exiled from the lives of the grandchildren forever. There is no coming back from stealing Grandma's money. The tension is building. The authorities are building their case. The paper trail is undeniable. The IP addresses don't lie. The bank records don't lie. The forged signature doesn't lie. Caryn Chandler is walking around Roloff Farms like she owns the place, completely unaware that the ground beneath her feet is about to crumble. She thinks the silence from Amy is submission. She thinks Amy is just moving on. She is wrong. The silence is the sound of the trap snapping shut. We have to consider the defense. What could Caryn possibly say? Will she claim Matt told her to do it? Will she claim it was a misunderstanding and she was holding the money for Amy? That defense falls apart the moment you look at how the money was spent. You don't hold money by buying luxury items or transferring it to personal accounts. You hold it in escrow. You hold it in trust. The spending is the proof of intent. The spending is the theft. As we transition into the final phase of this story, we have to look at the inevitable conclusion, the arrest. It won't be a polite knock on the door. Federal agents don't make appointments. They show up at 6 a.m. with windbreakers and warrants. They seize computers. They seize phones. They freeze assets. Picture the scene. The sirens at the gates of Roloff Farms. The flashing lights reflecting off the pumpkin patch. Caryn being led out of the big house, not in designer clothes, but in handcuffs, shielding her face from the cameras that will surely be there. This isn't just a scandal. It is a tragedy of greed. It is a story of a woman who had everything: security, a wealthy partner, a comfortable life, and threw it all away because she wanted more. She wanted what wasn't hers. And now, she is about to pay the ultimate price. The identity theft scandal is not just a rumor. It is a freight train of justice barreling down the tracks, and Caryn is standing right in the way. The silence at Roloff Farms is currently deafening, but it is the silence before a hurricane. As we enter the final chapter of this sordid saga, we have to look at what happens when the federal hammer finally drops. The investigation we have outlined, the IP addresses, the forged signatures, the shadow accounts, is not a civil dispute. This isn't something that can be mediated by a family therapist or settled with a frantic storyline on the next season of the show. We're looking at a scenario where federal agents, likely from the FBI's white-collar crime division, are preparing to execute a search warrant on the property. Imagine the scene that insiders believe is imminent. The gates of Roloff Farms, usually thrown open for pumpkin season and wholesome family fun, will be swarmed. Federal procedure in identity theft cases involving this amount of money, over $200,000, is aggressive. They don't just knock. They arrive with forensic tech teams. They will mirror every hard drive in the main office. They will seize every filing cabinet that Caryn Chandler has touched in the last decade. And most devastatingly for Matt, they will likely freeze the farm's operating accounts until they can distinguish between legitimate pumpkin profits and the illicit proceeds of wire fraud. This brings us to the tragedy of Matt Roloff. For years, Matt has been the architect of his own little kingdom. He has moved chess pieces, alienated his children, and pushed Amy out, all to secure a legacy he thought he could control. But if these explosive allegations against Caryn are proven true, Matt is not the king. He is the casualty. There are two possibilities here, and both destroy him. Possibility 1, he knew. If Matt knew Caryn was siphoning Amy's inheritance and did nothing, or worse, helped her hide it to keep the farm afloat, he is looking at conspiracy charges. He becomes a co-conspirator in federal wire fraud. That is a prison sentence for him, too. It means the end of the farm. It means the government seizes the land to pay restitution. Possibility 2, and the one that most insiders are leaning toward, is that Matt is the ultimate fool.
He has been sleeping next to a woman who was capable of felonies he couldn't even imagine. He defended her character to the world. He told his sons they were being unreasonable for not accepting her. If Caryn is handcuffed on his front porch, Matt's credibility is incinerated. He will go down in history not as a visionary farmer, but as a man so blinded by his own ego that he let a wolf into the henhouse and handed her the keys. The psychological devastation of that betrayal, realizing the woman you fought your family for was using your office to rob your ex-wife, is enough to break a man of his age and health. And what of the children? This is where the story turns from a crime drama into a family vindication. Zach and Tori have stepped away from the farm. They have distanced themselves, often citing a toxic environment and a lack of respect. If this news breaks, if Caryn is exposed as a financial predator, Zach is vindicated instantly. Every awkward dinner, every refusal to let the grandkids stay over, every cold shoulder, it all makes sense. His instincts were screaming that something was wrong, and he was right. The schism in the family wasn't just petty drama. It was a subconscious reaction to moral rot. When the indictment comes down, the isolation of Caryn Chandler will be absolute. The Roloff children will form a wall around Amy. We are talking about a protective order. We are talking about ensuring Caryn never sees the grandchildren again. You cannot explain to a child that Cha-Cha is going away because she stole Grandma's identity. The damage to the family dynamic is permanent. There is no reconciliation after a felony. There is no moving forward when one party is in a federal penitentiary. Let's talk about the legal reality Caryn faces. The defense strategy in cases like this is almost always desperate. She might try to claim that Amy authorized it verbally. She might try to say it was a loan, but the paper trail destroys those lies. You don't forge a signature for a loan. You don't route money to a secret online bank account if everything is above board. You don't hide the 1099 tax forms if you have nothing to hide. The prosecution will lay out the timeline: the arrival of the mail, the opening of the account, the transfer of funds, the spending spree. It is a linear, undeniable path of theft. Federal sentencing guidelines are brutal. Unlike state prison, where you might serve half your time for good behavior, the federal system requires you to serve 85% of your sentence. If Caryn gets hit with the aggravated identity theft charge plus wire fraud, she is looking at a potential 5 to 7 years. She would go in a wealthy reality star and come out a convicted felon in her 60s, with no assets, no reputation, and no farm to return to. The assets she does have are also in jeopardy. The government can invoke asset forfeiture. That luxury car she allegedly bought with the stolen funds? Gone. Any jewelry, any vacations, any home improvements funded by that account? Seized. If she mixed that money with her personal funds, her entire account could be frozen. She could be left destitute before the trial even begins, forcing her to rely on a public defender, unless Matt is foolish enough to drain his own resources to pay for a high-priced criminal defense attorney. And if he does that, he is spending the farm's equity to defend the woman who robbed its matriarch. The irony is suffocating. This scandal recontextualizes the entire show. Go back and watch the episodes. Watch the way Caryn looks at Amy. Watch the way she inserts herself into discussions about the property. It wasn't just about being involved. It was about assessment. She was assessing value. She was assessing vulnerability. The audience has always felt an undercurrent of unease with Caryn, a vibe that she was too involved too quickly. Now we know why. We were watching a long con in real time. We were watching a financial vampire wait for the right moment to strike. As we await the official press release from the Department of Justice, or the leaked mugshot that will break the internet, we have to appreciate the strength of Amy Roloff. She has been the punching bag of the narrative for so long. She was the bitter ex. She was the one who couldn't let go. But in reality, she was the victim of a crime so intimate and so violation-heavy that it is hard to comprehend. By taking this to the FBI, by refusing to sweep it under the rug for the sake of the show or Matt's feelings, Amy is reclaiming her power. She is saying that her identity, her name, and her legacy are not up for grabs. The climax of this story isn't a scene we will see on TLC. The cameras will likely be turned off, or the production will be halted entirely as the legal team scrambles to avoid liability. But the climax is happening right now in the offices of federal prosecutors. They are dotting the I's and crossing the T's. They are building a case so watertight that a plea deal will be Caryn's only option. And that plea deal will likely involve an admission of guilt that will echo through the reality TV world forever. We are standing at the precipice of justice. The $200,000 stolen inheritance was meant to be a safety net for Amy, but it has become a net that trapped a predator. Caryn Chandler allegedly gambled her freedom on the arrogance that she was smarter than the banking system, smarter than the IRS, and smarter than Amy. She was wrong on all counts. The fallout will leave Roloff Farms a ghost town. The pumpkins may still grow, but the spirit of the place has been poisoned by greed. Matt will be left in the big house, alone with his regrets. The kids will move on, fully severed from the toxicity. And Amy? Amy will have her vindication. She will have her money returned, likely through court-ordered restitution. But more importantly, she will have the truth. The world will finally see what she saw. The world will finally understand why she hesitated, why she was angry, why she felt unsafe. This is the end of the era of manipulation. The house of cards has fallen. The identity theft scandal is the final nail in the coffin of the Roloff Farms fairy tale. Now, I need to hear from you. This is one of the most shocking financial crimes we have ever covered on this channel. The evidence is mounting, the motive is clear, and the betrayal is absolute. Identity theft carries severe federal time, but we know how these celebrity cases can go. Do you think Caryn will actually serve time behind bars, or will Matt try to buy her way out of this? Do you think she deserves the maximum sentence for stealing a grandmother's inheritance? I want you to flood the comment section right now. If you think she belongs in prison, drop a "lock her up" in the comments below. If you think Matt is involved, type "Matt knew." Let's get the discussion going and show the algorithm that we demand justice for Amy. And listen, the story isn't over. We are monitoring the court dockets in Oregon daily. As soon as the indictment is unsealed, as soon as that mugshot is released, I will be back with a breaking update. You do not want to miss Matt's reaction to the arrest. So make sure you are subscribed, make sure you have hit that bell icon, and share this video with every Little People Big World fan you know. The truth is out, and it is uglier than we ever imagined. Thanks for watching, stay vigilant, protect your own financial data, and I'll see you in the next investigation.